All right, I am showing 1 o'clock. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, thanks for joining. My name is Kevin Gilmore. I'm the National Weather Service meteorologist here at the NWS office in New Orleans, Baton Rouge, located in Slidell, Louisiana. We're going to go ahead and talk about the latest with Hurricane Ian in the northwestern Caribbean. We're going to kind of talk about where it's going to be moving here in the next couple of days, the potential extreme impacts possible for parts of Florida. And then we're going to talk a little bit about also the expected impacts here across southeast Louisiana and southern Mississippi. So just like we do with all these briefings, we're going to split them up. We're going to, again, talk about Ian, the latest with it, where it's going. And then we're going to, at the very end, talk about what we can expect here, because we may have some impacts around here. Now we're going to have as extreme impacts as areas over towards Florida, but we will have some interesting forecast trends coming up here in the next few days. So we'll talk all about it and everything you need to know. But since the majority of people here want to know the latest about Ian, that's going to be the first thing we're going to talk about. So let's go ahead and jump right to the latest National Hurricanes from the National Hurricane Center on Ian. This is the 10 a.m. Central Daylight Time advisory that just came out, showing Hurricane Ian is continuing off towards the northwest and is continuing to strengthen. It is now winds of 80 miles per hour, making it a Category 1 hurricane. Atmospheric conditions are looking very favorable for the system to even become a major hurricane going into early Tuesday as it passes the far western tip of Cuba into the Gulf of Mexico. Now, a major hurricane is going to be Category 3 or greater. So we're talking about winds of 110 or more as it comes to the far southeastern Gulf and continues that northward motion. Now, we want people to pay attention not to the center of that track, but to the cone. We've been trying to stress that a lot about the system for the past several days now, is that there could still be some variations, and you will see impacts outside of where the center of the track is going to go. So keep that in mind, that it's been consistently more towards kind of the bend area of Florida near Apalachicola for the center, but impacts are going to be well outside of it. In fact, we may have some minor impacts well over to our area, which we'll discuss more a little bit. So system, again, is continuing off towards the north and will continue to strengthen, causing significant impacts to portions of Florida getting towards later parts of this week, particularly middle to later parts of this upcoming, or the week that we're in right now. So we're going to kind of jump real quick. Let's see if I can get this showing here. There we go. I'm going to show you the latest satellite imagery. Now, this is infrared satellite from the GOES 16 geostationary satellite, which is scanning this part of the Earth. You got the Gulf of Mexico in the center, and you got the Caribbean into the bottom right of your screen. And obviously, what you're seeing is a bunch of bright colors and swirl. That bright color and swirl is basically the satellite that is, it's infrared satellite, which is detecting the temperature of the cloud tops. So temperature, as you go further up to the troposphere, cools. It gets colder and colder and colder the further up you get aloft. So when you get these clouds that are really tall and getting those cold temperatures, we can then detect that we have cold cloud tops, which is a very good indication of deep thunderstorms or strong, what we call convection. So you see some of the brighter colors. The brighter colors are cooler colors. So you get to the reds and the blacks. Those are very cold temperatures aloft. You can see a very distinct swirl. So we got ourselves a good looking, what's called a kind of a forming hurricane. It's getting to the part where it's getting into better shape. You got good outflow that's surrounding it right now. So getting healthy relatively, and as it's moving into better conditions, we may even see this as the storm continues to intensify. An eye will eventually form on it as it continues off crossing Cuba. So again, looking relatively healthy on satellite. It's going to continue to strengthen as we get here the next couple of days, and especially by the time it enters to the southwestern Gulf. So that's our current situation there. So I'm going to jump right back to the images to show you the forecast track again. Major impacts, and I do mean not even major, but significant impacts are likely going to be for the Florida Peninsula area. So you got the Panhandle, which is like Tallahassee area going to Pensacola. And then you have the peninsula, which goes down towards like Orlando. That includes Tampa, that area. So that's where they're expecting to be very significant impacts. That could be life-threatening storm surge, dangerous winds. And another point of interest, too, is the fact that the storm may actually slow down right prior to where it possibly makes landfall. Just be aware, what impacts are going to be relatively widespread. And with the storm slowing down, that's going to cause life-threatening rain, flash flooding conditions, storm surge, high winds, all for that area. Again, we're going to get into a little bit more details here in the next couple of slides. So I'm trying this out a little bit different this year because I like that we're getting questions. I like the engagement. That's fantastic. But a lot of people have the same questions, and we want to kind of hit all of them here at once here. So I made a slide here called Commonly Asked Questions. And one, where will Ian go? It will likely impact Florida and remain to our east. For our local area, it's not expected to cause any significant impacts. If anything, we have a cold front coming through today, and that's going to be really knocking temperatures down because on that west side of the storm, let me go back here since I'm explaining. On the west side of the storm, which is where we're going to be located, you get northerly winds that funnel down. So as the cold front comes down, you get dry continental air to come down. Then we actually have relatively cool temperatures, and we'll be showing you that a little bit more with the 7-day forecast. So that's great. We'll have northerly winds. It'll be a little bit breezy, maybe even a little bit windy. And with the drier air and the windy conditions, we may have actually some minor like fire weather concerns, possibly one of those things where people may have to watch if they're doing outdoor burning. So kind of an interesting situation there. So what we call that is not significant impacts at all for our local area. So what can we expect? Okay, you say currently not expected to bring significant impacts, then what can we expect? No rain. And we're talking about no rain for the next 7 days. It's going to be a very dry forecast here because we're on that west side of the hurricane. It's commonly where you get what's called upper level subsidence or sinking of air, which is stable, drier with the front, and a little bit breezy too. So we just talked about before that cold front's passing through today, and we'll see actually cooler temperatures. You'll notice a cooler feel to the air tomorrow morning. Now, unfortunately, though, when I say no significant impacts, we will have some impacts, and that's going to be mostly in regards to minor coastal flooding concerns. With the storm being so nearby, this could cause enhanced swells for the marine areas and possibly even coastal flooding due to persistent easterly wind rotating around the circulation of Ian, where we could have some inundation issues specifically for east-facing shorelines. And areas like Lake Bourne could see 1 to 3 foot inundation from higher than normal tides, getting to around 1 to 2 feet as it funnels through the Wrigley's into Lake Pontchartrain and Lake Maurepas. So be aware we may have advisories and or possibly coastal flood warnings. It just depends as we look at the latest guidance. We'll make those decisions. So really it's just going to be swells and some gusty northeasterly winds that'll be the main impacts here. Another question we get a lot is they have a vacation or a trip plan in Florida later this week and upcoming weekend. Should I change or cancel my plans? We can't make that decision for you. And impacts will be greatly different depending on where you are in Florida. A lot more different between Pensacola, than Tampa, than Jacksonville, than Miami, than Key West. All areas will see different types of impacts. So because of that, if you want specific information pertaining to these local areas, we want you to check out these local weather service offices. These are the local weather service offices from Mobile going across coastal Florida. Please check these websites out. These are every single National Weather Service website. Ours is here. We're National Weather Service New Orleans. That's we're weather.gov/LIX, or you can do weather.gov/New Orleans. We have Mobile just to our east, Tallahassee, Jacksonville, Tampa, Melbourne, and Miami, and Key West. These are all individual National Weather Service offices, and a part of 122 offices across the entire United States. So be sure to check these out if you have any interest, if you have family, if you have friends located in any of these areas. You can get more particular information, more specific information pertaining to these local areas. So I'm going to kind of leave this up a little bit longer in case you need to jot any of this down. Be sure to check them out. They have local weather information for these specific areas. Again, if you have family and friends in these areas, check these local and National Weather Service offices out. Again, we're over here in southeast Louisiana and southern Mississippi, NWS New Orleans. So, as just talked about with the forecast, with the front coming through, as we're on the west side, it's really not that bad when it comes to how the forecast is going to be coming up here. Now, we got a little bit of a toasty day today. We got highs in the 90s. But by tomorrow morning, we're talking about lows in the mid to upper 50s for areas like the North Shore. Maybe even the lower 60s for the South Shore. So really not bad at all. And then we'll start to get that breezy conditions, those breezy winds from the northwest starting Tuesday. Wednesday, getting into Thursday is looking like the windier type of day. But temperatures are really getting knocked down. Look at that. That's a high of 81 for Baton Rouge on Thursday. Lows, it's going to be actually nice and cool and relatively crisp in the morning. So it'll be very refreshing. No rain for the next 7 days. Just breezy conditions for those 3 days and ample sunshine in the afternoon. Now be aware that the windiest conditions both Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday will be more pertained towards the afternoon hours. So it'll be a little bit breezy in the morning, But windiest conditions will be from around, I would say, 11 a.m. through about 5 or 6 o'clock until when the sun sets. Be advised that there is the possibility we could do a wind advisory. Again, we'll look at that a little bit closer if we decide to do that. And like we mentioned before as well, with the gusty northeasterly winds and the very dry conditions, there actually could be a minor fire weather concern where we could be issuing what we're now coordinating right now, issuing a red flag warning for portions of the area, which just tells us that there's dangerous burning conditions. We don't want any type of outdoor burning to get out of control. With the wind, fire could quickly move, especially given the fact that we have dry antecedent conditions. We just haven't had a lot of rain. This is usually a time of year where we don't really see a lot of rain. So because of that, we're going to have to watch. If you happen to do any outdoor burning or anything like that, just keep watch of it, or in best cases, just don't do it, especially if we have the red flag warning in effect. So a little bit more closer look at the lows Tuesday morning. Like I just said, talking about upper 50s. 52 Macomb, that's just fantastic right there. If you're a fall and winter weather fan, this is a big exciting time here for us because we've been hot and muggy for a very long time. We had that fake fall, if you remember that, not too long ago, and then we soared right back up to record heat. Now we're back where we need to be if you're, like I said, if you're a big fall weather fan. So lows Wednesday morning, again, chilly, 63 New Orleans, 57 Baton Rouge. Again, nice cool feel to the air, and then it'll get windier and breezier in the afternoon with ample sunshine expected. And these are the peak wind gusts. This is the peak wind gusts for Tuesday and Wednesday combined. So just be advised that these are where we're expecting what the highest winds are going to be. And the most likely time to see these high winds is going to be in the afternoon hours. So be advised, there could be a wind advisory, especially for maybe parts of the South Shore with the winds that typically when it races over Lake Pontchartrain, it picks up speed, and then the South Shore right there on the shoreline, lakefront, you get a lot of high winds sometimes when that happens. So maybe specifically very windy right there, right on the lakefront side of the South Shore. So also another thing to mention too, is the potential for tropical storm conditions may be possible for our far outer marine zones well southeast of the mouth of the Mississippi. We're talking about our 20 to 60 nautical mile weather zones that we do forecast for well offshore south of the Mississippi Sound. This is where we may have the possibility of tropical storm sustained winds. There may be a watch issue. We're going to have to look at that possibility a little bit later, but we're not expecting any inland tropical storm or hurricane warnings. Like I said before, the system is going to be well to our east and not cause major impacts for our area. The impacts, like I was talking about earlier, is going to be the coastal flooding across the east-facing shorelines, breezier northeast winds, and dry conditions, which may lead to minor burning conditions. So finishing this up here, we're promised to make this a quick update here. Again, this is with the 10 o'clock advisory. We're going to keep a close eye on this system. There could be some changes with it. Do not focus on the center of the cone. That center line, there could be impacts well outside of the cone is going to be very possible. The system could be continuing its track all the way up towards portions of the southeast United States, Georgia, South Carolina. Again, we're talking a lot about Tampa because extreme impacts are going to be very possible there. But the system, as it slows, it may even actually continue up towards the north, impacting Georgia and the Carolinas. So be advised there if you have family and friends there as well. That's going to be getting towards later this week into the weekend. But again, as the forecast is right now, impacts are going to be to our east here going into the next few days. Just going to have to watch for those higher than normal waves and swells out in the farthest south marine zones and coastal flooding as well. So that's going to be generally it. We're going to keep a very close track on this. We'll be constantly updating as much as we can on social media, constantly on Twitter and Facebook. We send more frequent updates on Twitter, so be sure to follow us there. We're going to save and re-upload this video here to YouTube, and we'll pass that link along as well towards Twitter, so expect to see that too. If there's anyone who you may know who may be interested in seeing this at another time, or they don't have a Facebook and this could be something of their interest, be sure to share that link. That would be fantastic to share this information the most we can. And otherwise, like I said, we're going to keep a close eye on it. But for here locally, let's just enjoy. We're going to have a very good long stretch of fall weather ahead. It's going to very much feel like fall weather. It'll be a little bit warm in the afternoon, but with that breeze, it'll feel a lot more comfortable. And like I said, if you have family and friends over towards Florida, keep updated with the latest information, with the latest updates from the National Hurricane Center, and get this message out to them. If they're unaware that there is a hurricane knocking on the door and it's about to move into the Gulf later in the next couple of days, they need to know about it because there's already been some evacuation orders ordered across Tampa, and there may be more from there. So they need to stay updated to local officials for the latest information, especially if they're in a storm surge zone. And keep in close contact with them, make sure they're going to be safe as the storm approaches. So we'll go ahead and end it there. Like I said, we'll probably do another update in the next couple of days just to kind of refresh people and let people know what's going on here, and let people know too that we're not expecting the storm to directly impact us here. Some minimal impacts are possible, but again, the system will be a lot more significant off towards our east. So thanks for joining. We'll go ahead and end it here. We'll, again, do another one here in the next few days, so be sure to check us out then. Otherwise, enjoy the weather and take care. Thanks for joining, and have a good week.